can't believe that we're doing this after how long has it been? 12? Feels like it's been like a couple of decades. What's going on, man?
Nothing much. How you doing?
I've been busy. I know that you've been busy a lot lately. You've taken care of some business back at home, like getting your masters done?
I have. Oh shoot, it's cutting out on my end. Is that okay?
Oh, yeah, that's okay. You're still coming in clear, but yeah,
Good.
I'm trying to remember like the last time we talked, and I had like the most lowest energy imaginable because it was like back then I was still nervous, and I was like in a household where I wasn't able to express myself energy wise. So now it feels like I've had a couple of cups of coffee and I'm ready to do this fucking thing. So yeah,
Yeah.
we've known each other for a while now, and I know that you haven't really done a whole lot of parody work as of late, but when you were starting to get into like a lot of the abridged series, even like 2,000 subs. So seeing how you've like gotten past that point now, how surreal is it to see that your channel has grown to an extra normal amount? I don't know what words to call it.
This is gonna sound so silly and so antithetical to your question, but I don't use those as metrics. Like I know everyone else on the planet is like, this is a metric which you have to like be appreciative of. And it's like, okay, you had this many subs, you had this many subs. Like, I
Hmm.
just don't care. It's like not it's not something that I even put on my radar as to like what's important and what's not. So
Hmm.
everyone else is always like, yeah, I hit 10 subs or 12 subs or whatever. If I had 13 guys, I'd be like, all right, we're doing good, gentlemen. Even 12, even 12.
I know that it's crazy to think back then because it still technically is a hobby because a lot of people that put work into their videos just put it out as just something that they like to enjoy doing, like how I usually do for my videos now. But does that still seem like that's the case for you nowadays, or is it just a matter of you just do it for the hell of it or whatever?
Uh, well, I haven't done it, so like I'm out the game. I'm out. In fact, I just realized like my whole backdrop, everything is white. It's like purgatory. Just imagine me in video purgatory. That's where I'm at these last couple of years, and whatnot.
I think the last thing you put out was the original version of Code MENT, and we'll actually get to that craziness in a little bit. But it's wild to think that you had somebody with you originally working on these projects, but then later on you redubbed it and just did like your own audio. Was there an original reason why they weren't involved in the other projects, or was it just a matter of like scheduling conflicts?
Somebody else was in the project?
Yeah, there was somebody else was voicing. It was not Lelouch. You were doing Lelouch, but there was somebody else. I don't remember the exact name of it, but it was like the quality wasn't as good as it was when you later released it again.
Hey, I always did all the voices except oh God, who was it? It was young Suzaku. My cousin did young Suzaku because I
Okay.
was recording them like in a room or something like that. And then
Oh,
oh,
okay.
I don't do all the voices. I don't do all of this. Sorry. The later stuff,
Hmm.
like I have other people do it and whatnot. But no, in the beginning, it was only there is one line. No one could probably pick it out of a lineup. My brother did, and he's like some
Hmm.
random guy shouting something, and I told him how to shout it, and he shouted it exactly like I did. I was like stunned. I was like, "That's perfect. That's better than what I was. That's exactly what I was doing. Exactly. You'd never know the difference. It's so funny."
And yeah, that was the other thing with the project itself because I want to say, like, beforehand, you've never had any voice acting experience. That was just all you, like, off the cuff. Because I know that a lot of people that have that much energy or, like, the type of presentation in their voice take years of work. I mean, is it mostly just, like, from watching other people do it and you just mimicking it? Or was it mostly because you just, like, I don't know, just saw it, like, in theater class or something like that back then?
I remember I picked up like a bunch of voices down the road. Actually, I know exactly why
Hmm.
I gravitated toward that particular skill.
Hmm.
When I was younger, I had a very, I'm going to use probably the wrong word here, but it's like a falsetto voice, a very like high pitch and
Oh, yeah.
high. Yeah. So I
Hmm.
was like extremely worried about how it came out, like very worried because sometimes I would be like, I must have hit puberty like late in life or something. So I would, you like if you heard me, you'd be like, oh
Hmm.
my gosh, that kid like 12? He looks like he's 16. Uh, but because of that, I was this one time I was in Puerto Rico. I actually have family in the Dominican Republic, and also a couple of times we go and we visit Puerto Rico.
Hmm.
I was like 12. And in terms of like just speaking the dialect and everything, I have like a terrible, terrible accent. My Spanish accent is not that great.
Hmm.
But the one thing I remember was we were driving this like nice rental car. I think it was like it was a convertible or something. But we had the radio on, and it wasn't playing music. It was like a radio station, and all the radio announcers were like, Los oyentes, por favor, saquen los planeadores y escriba a la tarea esta noche. Ha, ha, ha. Bueno, bueno, bueno. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can do that. It's totally manufactured. It's not how normal people would speak Spanish, but it's definitely like there's a booming to it. There's a So I remember trying to copy that, and then I kind of got obsessed with how things sounded after that, basically.
I mean
Yeah.
that I don't even remember like from the old recordings that you ever doing it that good. It sounded like you were like from TV commercials.
It's what it's based on, basically. Because I'm pretty
Hmm.
sure that it was either we were listening to a talk show or it probably was a commercial, or at least it was interspliced with commercials. Because I remember a phone number at one point,
Hmm.
and I remember years later going cinco 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 nueve dos nueve dos. That's that's actually from GTA, but like it was the same kind of sound, like the same kind of
Hmm.
projection that they were giving out in the radio that they were given in GTA. So I thought that was funny. Yeah.
Yeah, it really does sound like something you would hear off of Telemundo and they're advertising for AAA wrestling or something like that. So that is,
Yeah.
I don't even remember you ever doing that for the projects before, but that's pretty wild that you like threw out that little tidbit of information out there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. I became very obsessed with how things sounded and then like copying them. So I bet you every voice I've done so far, I could probably even trace them all back.
Hmm.
Like, this voice he's my friend. He has like a really deviated septum.
Hmm.
So he talks like all the time. He doesn't so you wouldn't. I mean, he's a lot more wiser than people give him credit for, just because of how he sounds. But it's like I don't know if he's like the smartest guy on the planet. I don't think anyone is. I know I'm not the smartest guy on the planet. But
Oh yeah, go ahead. Sorry about that.
no, no, no. I was basically done. I was just saying, like, I also base. Usually, I base the character off of someone, and I use their voice. So, like, those things usually match.
Oh, I got you. That was the other thing because when Code Mint came out, and I think I started watching your series around episode 2, and I think that's from the old interview recording back then that I may have mentioned that. But yeah, that was the thing that reminded me of like your interpretation of Michelangelo from Ninja Turtles because it's got that oh, it's a radical voice. Whoa, like it's
It's yeah.
yeah.
I always wanted to do that voice. Actually, now that you mention it,
Mhm.
the whole reason I'm doing this and I'm doing this with video, because normally I wouldn't do video. I'll actually tell you why in a second, but
Mm.
you're the first person who reached out to me and was like, hey, just like, you want to talk about what you're doing? So I was like, yeah, I don't know. So that first conversation was like, I really loved it because I got to like, kind of think through what we're doing. So this is why years
Mhm.
later, normally I wouldn't show my face, but I was
Oh
like,
yeah.
yeah, but now I'm like, hey, obviously for you, absolutely. But also, like one of the reasons I usually didn't show my face. Obviously, everyone's shy or whatnot. But
Mhm.
when I was in school, I think it was right around the time I was making these episodes. I had this class that was like, we could do basically like a review of an article. Basically, you had to read an article and then you had to write a paper on it,
Mhm.
and they gave us like a bunch of like different ones, and they were all about music. And one of them was, oh, what was it? It was on the Gorillas, and the
Okay.
article was basically about how like they get around, um, you know, adding the person into the music. You know, they separate that two. Basically, they're really good at death of the author. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that article so much. And I was like, yeah, I feel like it ruins the immersion if like you picture the face while you're listening to the characters talk. So
Oh yeah, that makes
normally,
sense.
yeah, if I wasn't like done out and like gone, I wouldn't care at all. But like, you know, I always am concerned that like you're taking away from a piece of media if you yourself are like adding too much of you in it, and you're not trying to like, you know, discover a new story or some kind of like element of the human experience. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think also part of that is because since there's other reasons that people would recognize your voice is not just from particularly Code Mint, but it's like one of the materials, and we'll get to that a little bit later on. But it's one of those things where it's like voice actors that don't want to break the immersion. And I think that's one of the biggest contributing factors for it, because I know that it's scary because there's like a lot of crazy fans that will want to know like everything out there, which is understandable to be cautious about that. Has that ever crossed your mind before, or is it just only something else that may have contributed to that?
Not really for me. I was actually thinking of this too. Well, I'll answer your question first.
Mhm.
There was one time I was at this convention, and I remember it was like during the early start of like when everyone was making videos and whatnot, early
Oh
days of
yeah.
YouTube. And I was in a convention with like all the other guys, and
Mhm.
there was this one guy. I had my own panel, did my own panel, and then afterwards, or maybe not even, I don't even know if I had a panel, but somebody had just come up to me like, "Hey, Purple Eyes," and then I started talking to him. I was like, "Wow, you are just like an ordinary dude." Yeah, I'm sorry. I liked it though. I liked it though because it's like, oh, it was. You could take it either way. You could be like, wow, you're like really down to earth, or you could be like, wow, there is nothing about you. Which like either way, I was like, yeah, that's probably accurate. Um, and the other thing is, I don't mind breaking the anonymity
Mhm.
because nowadays it's like it's weird because now like it's almost gone in the opposite direction where people will be like, well, everyone's anonymous now. We don't like the fact that
Mhm.
everyone's anonymous. So
Mhm.
that's why I'm kind of like, you know, I'm kind of like 50-50 on it. Like, I think for the medium of making cartoons, there should be some anonymity to it. There should be, like, it doesn't need to be your face because it's not about you. It's about, like, whatever those characters are and whatever
Mhm.
goes into that. But like if there's a problem with something on the back end and somebody wants to reach out because of the way, you know, the internet works, it's like, am I really reaching out to Purple Eyes or am I not? Or, you know, whatever. So eventually I'm just gonna be like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter as much anymore. And yeah, it's kind of like how it is with a lot of other voice actors, because that's who they recognize after, like, you know, aside from their voice. But speaking of which, Kevin Conroy, who just today was confirmed to have passed away. Did you see the report about that?
No, really? Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
I gotta my buddy. The
yeah,
guy who I was telling you sounds like he's like a huge fan.
yeah. It was, I want to say, like maybe 30 minutes after or right before we got the call going that I was reading it online and just going on Facebook, and there was the article Kevin Conroy confirmed by his other voice actor partners. Forget who the actress is for Poison Ivy. She confirmed it, and I think Riddler's voice actor was the other one too. But that is very sad stuff to like hear about, because we grew up around a time when Batman the Animated Series was like on Fox Kids, like during the afternoon school lineup. And just seeing that in shows like Gargoyles, where it was like that dark color, but it was like all action and well animated, and also with like a good storyline mixed in, is something that to me, like, I'll never forget that for memories back then.
That's so funny. I liked the shows where like, you know, the storylines were probably like secondary maybe to the aesthetics. It was like more lighthearted.
Oh.
My but my friend,
Mhm.
he was big into Batman, which you wouldn't think because like he's way more about the aesthetics, way more about the aesthetics. I'm like, I've become more and more as I grow older, like so nitpicky about the substance of something.
Mhm.
So I went back when I was in like my teens and I watched like the Justice League, the animated Batman
Hmm.
series. My gosh, this is amazing. I'm like I'm so impressed by the writing and like what actually those characters, who those characters are, and how that like whole thing came to be. That like I was amazed that my buddy was the one that found it. I was like, you have good taste, you didn't even know it. He's very funny. He's a very funny guy. That's all.
Yeah, that was the other thing. I think it's, and I know I'm contradicting myself on this because I think it was just something like when we were kids, we don't usually focus on story stuff. It's like if there's funny things or if it's like action based, it was like how it is with Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. Because we only just paid attention to the fight scenes of like, oh, so and so gonna fight so and so. And yeah, it's like you nitpick the older you get, where it's like, okay, this wasn't as good as I thought it was back then, and yeah, going forth from there. But it was like a time honored tradition where you just watch stuff for action rather than just plot point lines.
Well, they got both. I feel like they
Hmm.
got the aesthetics right, and that's the dream, right?
Oh
Aesthetics
yeah.
and the substance.
Hmm.
And I feel like even as a kid, you can kind of like gravitate towards like there's something that's really important going on here. Like what's going on?
Hmm.
Whereas like if the aesthetics are bad and the substance is bad, obviously that's the worst. But if like the aesthetics are good, I feel like you lose attention quicker than like if you can tell like wow wait something happened and I got to go back and figure out what because there's a story like something is progressing and I feel like if you use the aesthetics to also tell the substance
Hmm.
then you really get people like locked in and like they continually want to see what's going on here. Why does this character all of a sudden look older? Why does this character look like he's like a little more battle damage?
Hmm.
Oh, and then that's like the gateway to the substance, like oh well there's a story behind that kind of deal.
That was the other thing with. I would honestly go as far as to say Mask of Phantasm is probably not Phantasm. I think it's Mask of the Phantom.
I think, yeah, Mask of the Fans. I know what you're
Yeah,
talking about. Yeah,
yeah. That I would still go as far as to say maybe top five favorite animated films because it was just the look of it had like a more higher quality to it as opposed to like the regular episodes. I guess that they I think they did have it in theaters around that time, but I just remember watching it in theaters and just especially the music. It was like very orchestral sounding.
yeah.
And it
I
had
watched.
like one of the best soundtracks for like any animated DC project that was out there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny you said that. I just thought of this. So like in keeping with like how my tastes have kind of changed and like what I'm looking for, I saw that. I saw that with him actually, my buddy, a couple of years ago. Maybe like 5 or 6. He brought it over. I'm right there with you. It was amazing.
Hmm.
Also, I think, and this will tie everything together. Um, Part of like editing those videos back in the day has
Hmm.
now changed how I physically see media to the point where it's like I don't know if it's all good. Because one of the reasons I had to stop was editing was driving me crazy, like
Yes.
literally crazy. I would get like obsessive over like every frame, every
Hmm.
second of every frame, and every individual picture that a person would see. I would be like, "Is this right? Is this right?" And I was watching. I have 2 children now, boy and a girl,
Hmm.
and we popped on a movie. I forget if we were like with the nephews or not, but we popped on Coco. It's a great movie. I would say it's an
Hmm.
A+ children's animated movie. It's like a really great movie.
I still have yet to
Um,
see that one.
it's really good. It's really good. I love everything about it. The aesthetics are great. It's very
Hmm.
colorful, very vibrant, and the story is there. Like it's I believe it's Pixar, so it's like yeah,
Yes.
they're known for those like really heartfelt stories.
Hmm.
Uh, there's just one tiny like mark. It. Everyone else would not even notice this, but for me, it's like stands out, and I don't know why. There's this scene where a character is lamenting not being able to see his
Hmm.
daughter Coco, the titular character. And he's talking about that. and he used to sing her this song. So that's like established previously.
Hmm.
He's talking about missing this character so much, and then I gotta remember the line because it's actually like stuck in my head. He goes, "I wish I could see her one last time. Remember me, even though I have to say goodbye." He starts immediately singing the song that reminds him of her, rather.
Hmm.
And it's jarring because there needed to be a beat. And as an editor, I go crazy because I was like, you can fix it right now. Yeah. It would cost him nothing. Just have a guy like the ultimate thing would be to zoom up on his face to capture that lamenting.
Oh,
But
yeah.
if you can't do that because it's going to look jarring to freeze the frame on his face, then he actually looks at a photo that's just a still. Hold on that photo. Like you can add the beat there now. Like if somebody were to be like, hey, listen, this is the back end of this movie. This is where everything is. It's all digitally preserved. I'd be like, all we gotta do is add on the timeline another couple of seconds. Because then it really needs that beat because then he's supposed to be searching for his soul, and you, the audience member, is trying to search along with him, and then he's supposed to be reaching the depths deep down, and then being like, "What's in there? What's going on?" And be like, "The only thing I can think of, I can't communicate this thought, but I can sing it." And then so he starts singing. But the way it is now, it feels like, and this is just me. This is just me. I'm sure. It feels like he starts talking about how he laments his daughter, but then he in the middle of that thought knows exactly what he's going to do. So it's almost like he wants to get through that line as quickly as possible. He's like, "I just wish I could see her one last time. Remember me, even though I have to say goodbye." It's like, oh, it drives me crazy. But that's just years of editing have changed my brain to see how movies are put together. So I'm like, oh, you could just a little, just one frame, maybe 5 seconds. Anyway, it's not a big deal.
Oh, yeah, it's okay. It really does affect the brain a lot because we both have came from the same community that sprouted people the quality, I think, for editors increased in certain increments where it was Lil Karibo, then he eventually got better, then there was Matsuko X, then there was Kaiser Neko, and then I think it plateaued right as soon as it got to you, and there were other people that came afterwards, but a lot of us, I feel have moved on to other things, but it was crazy how fast it happened. It was every single year there was always somebody new. And then you with your Tim and Eric super show of awesome editing style came in. It changed everything. How long did it take you to get better about editing? Did you get some ideas from Kaiser, or was it just something that you learned from video tutorials online?
It's A, B, and C. It's all that. But generally, whatchamacallit, I would edit every time differently. I said I was going to do that in order to get better. So I would have something that I thought approximated in the beginning. I'd have something a style that approximated working, and I was like, all right, we need to change this. Let's try this. Let's try this. So if I could go back and tell young me now, I would give him all the pointers and all the things I learned, do this, do that, organize your folders, make sure you do I'm using this 12-year-old machine right now. I couldn't even get Discord working on my new machine, unfortunately. So I'm sorry if the audio is terrible. It's just whatever.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, I have a preamp, but there's all this stuff to set it up with, and I have to worry about the delay, especially in streaming. That would have been a problem. That would have been pain for you to edit. But I said this too. One of the things I liked, actually, you know what? I don't know if I would have told myself back in the day if all the things you should do, because one of the fun things was figuring out what you could do in editing. So I feel I forget who it was, but I was looking at some behind the scenes kind of thing. Maybe it was SpongeBob. I think it was SpongeBob. SpongeBob, they say it's very much visual based storytelling. It was either visual based storytelling or visual based comedy, something like that. And I remember thinking, man, if that's visual based comedy or cartoon-based comedy, I don't even know what the term they use, then this kind of stuff is editing-based comedy, because a lot of the jokes came while you were editing. Like, I remember being in the middle of editing something and thinking, like, this is ridiculous. Like staring at this one character's face and being like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if this said this? And it's like, and then that kind of evolved. You're like, hey, it wouldn't be funny if they said this, but hey, would it be funny if this was played backwards? Like, I just noticed this segment looks like this way. Or what would happen if, like, this was upside down? Or what would happen if there was a character back there listening in on this conversation? You know, like, so it was very much editing had a lot to do with the substantive process and, like, guiding where those videos went.
A lot of people are not going to understand what I'm talking about for this, but I know Purple Eyes and even Kaiser has dealt with it before. If the one thing that was the most tedious about editing for any abridged series or any like animated parody thing is lip flaps. It's like you're animating it by the oohs and the ahs and the mouth close, and then there's like the eyes that you have to animate if they're looking to a different angle. That was the one thing that annoyed me the most. And nowadays when I'm doing like documentaries, it is the most easiest thing to do as opposed to that, because you're just doing slow panning shots of like, if you have like a photo and you just go to the side while you're narrating, and it's like, it's not the most tedious thing ever anymore. And it's the one thing that just drove me crazy about that. Was that the one thing you also had an issue with back then?
I mean, nowadays there's multiple things. I even remember there's one stuck in my head, and I'll tell you that one in a second. But yes, that was a big thing. I honestly wonder how much was even gained from it, because I think some people, there's like a meta element to it where they like the fact that it's just like it didn't match, and so how much was gained to make those lips match and make it look that professional? I don't know. I really don't know. I couldn't tell you. I couldn't weigh those two. Maybe some people probably really liked it, some people didn't. But you said, was that the only annoying thing? That was definitely annoying. But I remember certain scenes, and this is the problem with me, like I did not have Adobe products. I didn't have like good video editing software at all. I would manually cut stuff out. Like I would literally put like dots using the masking technique in
Sony Vegas.
Yeah. And cut everything out. And there's this one scene where there's three characters. The one character, I think it's the Code Geass parody. There's one character in the foreground. I believe it's Suzaku. There's Rivel in the middle, blue hair guy. And then Lelouch in the back, black hair. So brown hair guy, blue hair guy, black hair guy. They each move into... I wanted them to do a certain thing, and this is sometimes I have this problem too, because it's not always editing based. Sometimes I would do a bit just by like a still that I remembered in my brain. I'd be like, okay, I got to do this bit, and I think I can make it work. And that was the problem, because I would say, I think I can make it work. I would do the bit, have the bit, be really happy with it, and then try to backfit and force the editing to work. So like in this particular time, I remember not only were there the three characters in a row, there was a running fountain like somewhere at the top of the frame. Now there were four problems, and then there was a fifth problem because there was people walking back behind like the behind the fountain. So it was miserable. I had to. You had to freeze the fountain. The water's not flowing anymore. I did not care to make the water look like it was running. The people are completely frozen. That's fine. They're way in the background. No one's going to even care about them. But in the original footage, they were moving around. The third character, this is so brutal. The third character and the first character almost leave at the same time. But the problem was I wanted the third character to leave. So, like, I had to figure out how to get the third character to leave right before the first character started moving. The third character would move. I had to, like, reframe the middle character because after he was almost off screen or, like, starting to go off screen, the foreground character, the guy that in the first person, very closest to the camera, he would move as well. So I had to overlay, like, different pieces of the shot to get him to stand still. It was so brutal. I'll never forget that. And then like I wanted them to like turn or sometimes and talk too. So much went into that scene. No one will ever know it. No one will ever care. And like every once in a while, that scene like pops up in my brain. And I go, oh no! Just nightmares of that scene. Oh, brutal. Yeah.
Man. Yeah, that was around the time when you guys were just coming up with like the craziest things to edit for like all of your projects. And I was just now getting into Sony Vegas and oh my god, I remember the title card that I was using for our last interview, and I remember that the text that said "thank you" looked like it was spray painted on because I tried to do like graffiti look, and this is like on a plastered tack interviews logo, white backdrop, and everybody else has got fucking Picasso and some shit on the side, and yeah, it's just looking back at it now compared to what I have nowadays is I still cringe at it. But if there was one thing out of any of your videos that you could go back to and like maybe tweak to make it perfect, what video or what thing would that be?
Rabbit hole. Here's the thing. Because I couldn't focus on one. Whenever I release a video, like the second I release it, I have this like massive. Some people get like titillated and they're like, "Yeah," you know. The second I released it, I would be like, "Oh, I should have done this. Oh, I should have made this character say this because later on that character who knows about that." So like that always happened. And like one of the reasons I definitely had to stop. Obviously, I had like a lot of stuff going on now, but I remember that I cared so much about how the audio was coming off on different devices. So like at first I was only testing on the laptops. I was only testing on like, the PCs. Eventually my wife, my girlfriend at the time, now wife, she had a Mac, so I would like listen through that. But then I would test the audio on the cellular devices, as many as I could get a hold on, iPhone, the PC, and the MacBook. Then this was towards the very end, because I realized that like there would be peaking on the iPhone, but you wouldn't even notice on the PC. You just control it. Like there was a bigger window maybe to control your volume.
Oh yeah, through Audacity too.
Yeah. The last time I uploaded a video, I think I must have watched it, I'm not kidding, possibly 100 times, because I found a problem. I would write it down. I would write like, it's peaking right here. I would go back in the video and I would fix it. And then all of a sudden, like, I would do that a couple of times. I would do that for 3 or 4 times. But every time I did that, I would check on every device and see if it was good and see if it was working. So like everyone was happy. And after a while, I was like, I can't be doing this. Because not only was it like I was not enjoying it. Like if I went back and watched those videos, I would be like, they like, the third time you watch your video, you're like, is this even good? Is this funny? Is this great? Like, you don't know, because I feel like the spontaneousness of it is gone. So I was not enjoying them. Like, I remember just being like just stressed and just like, having to walk through the mud of figuring out whether or not the quality on this was good. And I don't even know if the end result was worth it. Maybe that totally was pointless, but whatever. I did it.
That's the thing that you said, where you're not sure if it really mattered, but it's like I said at the beginning of the recording. It's like back then, you didn't even have that many subs to begin with. And I was like shocked to see how many you had. I think you're like close to 500,000 or some like crazy number. And yeah, and it's just, I didn't even remember if any of your videos got to like 10,000 views. And I see it's like you've got like a couple of million just on a bunch of the videos now. So it's wild to see like your channel has grown, even though you haven't done a whole lot of new stuff in a while. But you still do technically show up in like a few projects. I saw that there was there's like a puppet show thing that you did a voice for recently as like a store clerk, I think is what it was. Does that urge still get you every once in a while whenever somebody's like, hey, I want you to do like a cameo part, blah blah blah, or whatever, is like, be in this video? Does that still happen every once in a while, or is it like, I'm done, I'm taking the shoes off, I don't want to do this anymore?
That's funny. I wish I had like a happier answer. The way I did it to keep myself sane
Hmm.
was I said to myself, I'm done after this point. I think it was like April of 2020, but I am going to fulfill any obligations that I previously had. So so that included anyone that had reached out prior to April of
Hmm.
2020 and said like, hey, can you be in this thing? Hey, can you help me do this? Hey, can you do that? Like if I had said yes, or if we had started like a dialogue before then I was like, yes, I'm gonna like fulfill those obligations. So I did. Like if there was a reoccurring character and somebody was like, hey, we still need that character. Like, okay, yeah, that's fine, totally fine. I can make that work.
Hmm.
Um, Walter had reached out to me before that date, like well before that date, and it just took forever to kind of get things going because of where he was, where I was. So I knew that I can't remember, but I knew that I had like said I probably will like do something with you, or like we definitely should do something around that area. So that's when I was like, okay, that's an obligation I need to fulfill it. So
Hmm.
yeah, I did his thing. That was super fun. Do I miss it though? I don't know. There's a lot of like setup that goes into it. There's like, nowadays I got so much going on. I think in the beginning of this stream we were talking about it. Like
Hmm.
I just finished up my master's for data science, which is like machine learning. So I kind of you were talking about like the numbers and
Hmm.
being like, wow, it's really cool to see that. Now I'm like just thinking about it algorithmically and how like the machine learning algorithm probably works, and I'm like,
Hmm.
man, it's like like it's like once a lot of people on the front end probably see that number and go, wow, and I've done what I've done to videos. I've kind of looked
Hmm.
under the hood and go, oh, it's like I've peeked behind the curtain, I've seen the wizard, and I've been like, yeah, I guess that's what it is. That's just
Yeah,
yeah,
'cause-
but
yeah.
yeah, it was interesting, and I love interesting stuff. I'm always gravitated towards interesting.
And it wasn't just only that video that I remember hearing your voice in, but there's somebody else that we're both familiar with, and that's Marcello, who does a video gaming YouTube channel called GameCube Galaxy. And we've had him on the show already, and when he and I started talking about you for the recording, I was blasted with nostalgia because again, that brought me back to the interview I did with you like over a decade or so ago. And it clicked with me like later after the video was out because I didn't realize that was you at first. And he went to get, what was it, Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen 16 to drive or some shit like that.
Yeah,
I was like, yeah, after the video was over, it was like, is that who I thought it was? I showed him your profile and he was like, yeah, that's him. I was like, damn, I didn't realize that was you at first. So,
yeah.
how did that get to be where you guys got to do like a video together? Was it mostly just him getting done with a convention, or was it just something else that he was doing at that time?
He was actually up in where I live because we've been friends for a long time. We've been friends since high school,
Mhm.
and he was up. He was visiting family. It was like important that he was there. Believe me. But he was because he was in the area. He was like, "Hey, do you mind if I stop by?" And I was like, like not at all. You can like stay wherever you want." I offered him my room. He actually got another room somewhere else, but
Hmm.
he, he stopped over. I can't remember if he stayed over, but I know he stopped over, and my father's house is not too far from here.
Hmm.
And so he wanted to play these GameCube games that he had gotten at that convention. And so I was like, well, I have my old GameCube somewhere in the attic, and we found it, but I only had one controller. I was like, let's go to my father's house, and that's his basement. That's my father's basement. And in it, he had said before I went there, I asked him like, "Hey, can I go in there?" And I was like, "I'm just gonna grab a couple things." He's like, "If you find any of that old stuff, take it, because otherwise I'm gonna sell it because I want to clean out my basement." So I was like, "Okay, perfect." And that's when he saw the Mary Kate and Ashley things.
Hmm.
So that was, yeah, that was not mine. Uh, but we found it, we pulled it out, and I gave it to him. I was like, "Hey, do you want to take this?"
And you're not just saying that to avoid any questions of why exactly would you own a copy of Mary Kate Ashley Olsen for the GameCube?
I mean, why wouldn't you? Like A-grade material there, you know? Game of the year for every year in a row.
Exactly, and that's one that's like on top of everybody's hidden gem list. I know Middle Jesus would want to put that on his list if you wanted to.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, that was wild to be able to see that and to see you like doing well, like after all this time, because it's been a long time since we've actually talked together, like whether it was on Skype, if any old person uses that nowadays, and or on here on Discord. But yeah, it's been a wild journey to be able to kind of just talk a bit about like what you've been up to nowadays. But there's a couple of last few things, and of course, video games, we'll get to like one last one of that in just a minute. But one thing I was wanting to ask during the last interview, I know that you used to do snowboarding, because during the first, like, I think few minutes of the recording, that you were talking about snowboarding and a particular suit that you used to wear. Do you still have that Venom suit that you used to snowboard with?
So, it was actually, I think we talked about that like for a second at one point. So I went back. I don't have it. I don't have it. It's actually just a shirt, but I remember buying the shirt because it was way before, like, you know, Marvel Studios was a thing, or like even a big thing rather. It's probably like around Sam Raimi times. They were like selling a bunch of shirts at, I don't know if it was like Gap or Hot Topic or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
But I was way back in the day, I was like really bad at figuring out what my size was. So I just bought this large black suit Spider-Man shirt. It just basically had like the logo. But the problem was the large on me, it might as well have been like XXL. It was huge.
Oh,
At
jeez.
least XL. So I was like, this thing is like crazy big. I can't even remember if it was XL or large, but I'm pretty sure it was large and it felt like an XL. Anyway,
Yeah, I just remember that.
yeah, I knew I could put layers on underneath it because it was so large. So I was like, this is the perfect snowboarding shirt, because what I would do is I just put tons and tons of layers on, thermals, and I put like, you know, long sleeve like undershirt, overshirt, maybe like a nice sweater, like, you know, just big enough to like, and then the shirt, and it just, as long as it was all black, and then I had black pants and I had a black face cover, I was good to go. It looked like Black Suit Spider-Man. So yeah.
Yeah, I just remember that as like one of the few bits of the recording, because like at that time I was still snowboarding myself, and my board I've outgrown along with the boots. But do you still do that every once in a while, or has it been something you haven't picked up ever since?
Not since I've had kids. I was thinking about this. I probably won't for a while. You know, I could not. My wife does not snowboard. Actually, I took Marcello snowboarding for the first time a while ago. That just popped in my head.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I definitely. The only time he's probably ever gone is with me. But a lot of, like, there's not a lot of people who would go, and even then, like, you know, you got to take care of the kids first. I can't
Oh,
just.
yes.
Yeah. I have a 4-month-old and like a 2.5-year old. So they're not really snowboarding anytime soon.
Yeah, it'll be like probably at age 5, because I think that's when me and my parents tried to do it before, and I think that they ran out of the boards that we could actually rent, because there was I think the place was called King Pines, and this is like closer to New Hampshire. And I
Yeah.
know that they have like those starting courses where you got the cord that you hold on to, and then they drag you up, and then you go to like the small slope, and then you can just like try to balance. But yeah, we tried to do that before. It didn't go well, so we had to go back all the way till I was like 10. And that's when I finally got to snowboard properly. And I remember my first time going down, I kept falling on my face, because it's like you got that balance, you have to like keep your feet back if you're going to like stop. And I remember when I finally got that down at the very bottom of the hill, there was this one snowboarder. I don't think he was gonna go a different direction, but he was like the edge of his board went to where my knees were, and it was like right behind, and I think the edge of his board like scraped the back of my leg, and it left like a huge mark on both sides, and that was like the one injury. He didn't even apologize. He went back over on the lift and went back up like a dickhead. So it was like in the nurse's station trying to get that fixed. Has there ever been in a situation where you got injured like that before?
I actually, oh, this is perfect. This ties in like 100%. When I brought Marcello to his first time riding, I'm like really bad. I also do this with my wife.
Mm-hmm.
I take him to the bunny slope, and then I kind of like, okay, they do pretty well, you know, like they do well enough. So then I overestimate like how well they've done, and I'm like, okay, now you should totally go to the top of the mountain, or something, or like totally go to the top of one of these green runs or the blue runs. It's the green one.
Oh yeah.
And so I I did my wife is the same thing. I didn't learn from Marcello. I took Marcello up, and he like I feel so bad. I feel so bad to this day. He did really good for a first timer, like really good, exceptional good. But there was just one part where it was like it was more icier than it should have been. It was really downhill, really fast.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and he like he didn't have control of the board, which is like you don't know, like you're gonna fall your first time, but you don't know like how crazy it's gonna be. Anyway, I don't even know if he knows this. So he fell and he took out some guy. It was the other, like he was coming down, the other guy was here, and then he like fell, and the other guy like no, he was behind the guy, and the guy fell over him. So like he took him out and he flew over him, and then Marcello like fell down and he apologized like nonstop. He's like, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm like, that was like, you know, I didn't mean to do that. It was my first time. And the guy was like a little shaky. He's like, it's cool. Everyone was cool. Everyone was very nice. After that, I felt totally bad. But like a champ, he still finished the whole run. Did really great. We met his brother inside. They were in the lodge. It was really good. It was really good. I went home the next day. I was talking to my sister, and my sister was like talking about her friend for some reason. No, I was talking about the mountain, and then she was like, "Oh, you were there yesterday?" I was like, "Yeah, I was there. I didn't know you didn't know." And then she was like, "Oh, my friend got plowed over by some kid literally behind him." And I was like, "Whoa!" Like, we know the guy that we took out. Nice, full circle. Yeah. So I mean, we apologized. Then they didn't know each other, like my sister's friend and Marcello, but I know the two of them. So he was totally cool about it. We smoothed it all over. It was all good. Yeah.
Man, that's like a small world. Very
Yeah,
small
it
world.
really was.
God, man, it would be like a while for me to be able to do that, but I'm actually in Ohio now, and I was in Alabama for like I want to say close to like 25 years. And
Nice.
first time ever experiencing like bad snowstorms was in New Hampshire, and that was like during the late 90s. And I remember my first ice storm was like early winter of 98. And I remember just like waking up and you open the door and it's got about like 6 feet of snow, and then it's that sheet of ice. And I remember like going snow sledding, and then I didn't think it was gonna fall on me, but when I was going down this hill that we made and it like sheeted over, that the whole sled, including me, went into the snow pile, and it was like looking up and seeing that whole sheet right above my head. But yeah, I don't know if I would ever want to experience that again. But nowadays, I just snow blow like snow out of the driveway, and that's about it.
Yeah. That's all I could stand. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it snows like crazy around here. I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of done with the snow.
Okay, so now I've got like a few other little topics that I wanted to get into, and since this is a video game podcast, I figured I would just get it out of the way. I know with you being busy as of late, have you played anything recently, or has it just only been maybe like a smartphone game every once in a while?
I'm gonna think of I finally broke down and I finally started playing Fortnite. Um,
Oh boy.
my nephews are a little older than I am.
Hmm.
No, my nephews are older than I am. No, that's not true. That's crazy.
How's that
Sorry.
even possible?
But yeah, exactly. My nephews are older than my kids.
Hmm.
Like I have like they're tiered. So like my in-laws, basically, their kids, their brother's kids. I
Hmm.
think I'm saying that right. Are like like they're 12, 11, and whatnot. And they're all about Fortnite. They were playing Fortnite. We played Super Smash Brothers.
Oh, nice.
Um, yeah, but oh man, just really quick, they need to make a dedicated short hop button. It drives me crazy that they call it Super Smash Brothers. I want to slam all the buttons down, but then there's all these times where it's like, no, 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 you got to tilt the stick and then you can use a tilt attack. Like
Mm.
just short hopping has been my downfall. It's just because it's just like not a button. They have two jump buttons, but they're both long jump buttons. Uh, but yeah, I started playing Fortnite because they finally had no build mode,
Hmm.
and my tagline for Fortnite for forever was, my tagline. The way I conceptualized Fortnite was like, have you ever enjoyed, like your video game gun battle and thought, man, I could really do with some home decoration right now, or like home renovation right now.
Hmm.
Well, look no further than Fortnite. I can't get over being in the middle of a gun battle and then like, no, you got to build a house. You got to start building a house, okay?
Hmm.
So like it was too much for me. I like you press O, you get the option to like oh you can make a staircase if you hit this one, this one, this one, this one. It's like I
Hmm.
just it was above me, so beyond me. They had the no build mode where it's just battle royale, and then even then I didn't really it wasn't on my radar until ironically enough they added Goku.
Oh
Yeah.
God.
So for a while I was on the hate train. I was like, Fortnite, Fortnite, those kids on Fortnite. And then they were like, Goku with a shotgun? And I was like, oh yeah, yeah, sign me up. Yes, yes, I will do that. Without a doubt, yes, I gotta see
Yeah.
this. It I don't know what happened, but it like jumped like it piqued my interest when they put that in there. So I downloaded Goku, I got him. Watching him run around with a shotgun is hilarious.
Yeah, it was that, and I think the other one that got me was Ryu and Chun-Li using
Oh
guns.
wow.
Like, it's just Ryu, he shoots Hadokens, and now he's shooting Glocks at, like, other little kids. It's the
Oh,
craziest
man.
thing I've seen, because technically it is like Smash Brothers, because it's like the biggest crossover ever, which
Yeah,
now I
yeah, yeah.
think Fortnite technically takes the cake, because I know back then
Yep.
people really wanted individuals like Wolverine, and they wanted who's the other one? Yeah, they were like trolling with Goku to be in Smash Bros, but now he's in Fortnite, and it's the craziest thing that you have to see now.
Yeah, yeah, it's very funny. I having him, having Vegeta, and then like I forgot who else. I think I got one other character and I'm like, okay, I'll this is like my limit. I bought Ash from the Evil Dead
Evil Dead
series.
series, yeah,
Yeah.
nice.
It was Halloween. I was like starting to actually explore the game because they have all like these creative things. I love their escape room things.
Hmm.
There's like these little people build entire rooms basically like an escape room, but like, there's like secret entrances and they mess kind of with how you perceive games. It reminds me a lot of, I think, like Half-Life. I haven't played a lot of Half-Life, but I think
Hmm.
same design practices where it's like they think about physically how the player is going to interact with the game. They think about the conventions that they set up, and then they kind of break those conventions, maybe with like, here's an invisible wall, and you know to go through that invisible wall, but sometimes it's not. Something like that. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
You're conditioned to think that you should run up this staircase, but no, it's actually you go underneath the staircase, and then you fall down a hole, and then now you're in the next room or something.
Yeah, and speaking of Half-Life, it's crazy to think that we didn't get, well, we technically did get a Half-Life 3, but have you seen the footage for the VR game that they have?
Oh yes, yeah, I did have seen. I've seen the footage for it. Yeah, it was really cool. They were like you could it was really interactive, where the point where like you could pick up like a gun clip and you had to manually feed it into the gun. I think you even might have had to like pull the stock back or something like that. But it looked like amazing. Like you actually had to search shelves and like move stuff aside. That was cool.
Yeah, and be able to like climb on the side. But the one thing that always made me appreciate like how awesome it is, that you know, the plant thing that would be hanging from the ceiling that had like a little cord, and if you got attached to it, it would like bring you up. It's like,
I hear you. I don't know. I haven't played, but I hear, yeah.
Yeah, I just remember from like the old games, that was the one enemy that annoyed me the most, and you had to like shoot it a few times before it let you go. In VR, when you see that happen, it is the scariest thing, because you're trying to get away from it, and you see this big plant thing with a huge ass maw, like gonna like suck you in and like bite your head off. But yeah, it's just the whole surrounding area and like the whole environment is so well done, and I think they're doing a sequel technically to it, so yeah, I would have to like be able to get it, but I've seen people like Djibouti Show play it on stream a few times, and it's like, man, we've come a long way from, you know, just like 2 buttons and then a start and select button.
Yeah. Amen to that.
All right, so with that being said, we're getting down to it, and I think it's the one that a lot of people have questions about, and I've known you for Code MENT and Numpiece, and I still really love episode 9 of Numpiece, because we're getting into the holidays, and it's like a big Christmas holiday special. But the most things that people remember you by is just soup. And I remember when you were doing Code MENT, I remember watching all of the episodes, but I, for the life of me, could not remember where that came from. Explain how that idea came about, because nowadays, you're known as a meme just for that little joke alone.
That's funny. I've never come across that. It's never permeated into my circle as mimetic, but that came about. I think I've definitely said this somewhere, but I can't remember the specifics of it. I called that friend that I was talking to earlier, the one that sounds like that, and basically it's exactly what you think it would be. I called him up. We talk all the time. He's been my friend for 20 years. Like I knew Marcello, and I knew him for like the longest time. And whatchamacallit, we talk to each other all the time, like all the time. Even when he like moved a little bit north of me, we were still in contact. I still talk with him now. He was supposed to come actually recently, but he had gotten COVID. But it had been probably the longest break I haven't heard from him was like 6 months or something like that. And so I called. I think it was sometime in college, and I called him, and I was like, hey, what's going on? Or he called me, and then I was like, hey, what's going on? So like, how you doing? Like, what are you doing? And clearly, the way I thought I was saying it was like, what's going on with your life? But the way I said it was physically was, what are you doing? And he took that as, what am I doing exactly right now? I even preloaded that question. I was like, I haven't heard you in forever. Like, life's been so crazy. What are you doing? And he goes, I'm eating chicken. Like he's zeroed in as though I had not missed a beat of like those 6 months, as though I knew everything that had gone on in his life, and he just filled me up exactly what he was doing right then and there. I remember being like, "Oh, you're eating chicken," and then so it's like, "That's great." And then all of a sudden, I was like, kind of really listening all of a sudden to like what was going on, because I heard like cash registers behind him and like music, and then so I was like, "Wait a minute, you're eating chicken. Where are you?" Because like I heard someone ask, like, do you need help, sir? And he was like, no, thank you. He's like, oh, I'm at the Gap. And he's like, you're at the Gap eating chicken. Like it was so bizarre. So that's where it came from. Just the confusion of that thing. Like I think immediately after that, I like, okay, I gotta record this because it's fresh in my brain. So I just put it down, and then eventually I used it whenever.
Oh my god. And the thing that always killed me, And I didn't realize that it picked up so quick as a meme because when you know that you've made it, somebody did like a source filmmaker animation of Team Fortress 2 characters, and it's just like what was it, the soldier, and there's like the spy.
Yeah.
It was just well animated like that. It's like, what do you mean you're buying clothes at the soap store?
Hats off to that guy. Like, those guys are way too talented. It's almost unfair. I could not believe, like, I couldn't figure out how to get like the character to pose properly. They had the lighting down, they had the lip flaps down, they had, yeah, it was amazing to watch those guys at work.
Man, yeah, and that was the other thing. The part that always got me was when Suzaku was like, "Shut up, you don't have to yell at me," and then he just walks over like one frame, and it's like, "There's just more soup." What do you mean? There's more soup?
Yeah, that was because I think there was like in the real conversation, it was becoming relatively apparent. We have like such a funny relationship because every once in a while we just love ragging on each other. So well, and it's fun. It's like, you know, it's like basically how like lion cubs play. We're just clawing at each other just because, just to like sharpen our skills. And I just remember being like, "What the heck you mean? Like, I asked you this question and you're talking to me about soap and you're eating it. Are you gonna get like chicken grease all over the clothes? Is that what you're gonna do?" I just remember it was very intense. And then he was laughing in there. The lady who like was listening thought we was crazy, of course. That's pretty much every call. He's got to be away from people when he calls me. Recently, he called me about something too. And I was like going off, and he was going off, and then he's like, I have to stop. I have to stop. My coworkers here, and they think I'm crazy already. And I'm on the other end like, well, good. Oh, it's like, now they know the real you. Yeah. Oh, it's great.
Oh man,
20 years going strong, and like, man, he's had some like, you know, tough curveballs thrown his way, but he's the most resilient guy you'll ever meet. I really do think one of these days, I'll tell you all the stuff that's happened to him. It's incredible, but God bless, like, you know, the support system around him and his family. They're all amazing. 120%.
and I think that that's the most important thing to have on hand because with how mental health is nowadays. Like back then, I know that it was a thing that not a lot of people really thought about, but I think it's a lot more accepted now more than ever. So yeah, that's good that they have that with them right now.
On that front, I am so lucky. I don't know if this is lucky or not, but so you see me wearing glasses here. Actually, normally, because I think I mentioned like I got a data science degree, so obviously I'm not doing software stuff all day. I'm staring at screens. I have this weird like specific problem to me. I can't use phones that much. I can't stare at a phone screen because my eyes dry out way too much, and literally it starts to hurt. I've gotten eye drops. I've done everything I can to try and like, you know, rectify that issue. But no matter what, my eyes will dry up. It actually, the drops sometimes make it worse. It depends on the drops. But even then, like after they run out, it hurts like twice as much, and then I become dependent on the drops. It's horrible. But I just got to stay hydrated, basically. I can use the phone for maybe 10 minutes, like, you know, at a clip. And what's even worse is if I don't have my, like, you know, my glasses on, I'm like squinting to read it. But even then, if I have like the font really big and it's far away, it's still just a matter of time before all of a sudden I get a shooting pain. So I can't interact with like all the stuff on the internet all that much, and for better or for worse, like, you know, my life is very simple. It's a very simple, like easygoing, just very like it's like, hey, maybe I'll check Facebook. Can only do it for 10 minutes.
Yeah, and I was meaning to ask because since you mentioned about the glasses, are those blue blockers you're wearing?
They are.
Okay, yeah, that's the same type of glasses that I'm using right now for mine. And I think that's also the same issue that I had when I was, I video edit a lot for people. And it was like, my eyes were also getting, like, tired, and it was like a pulsating feel. I don't know, like, why it does that, but I think it's just mostly the blue light from it. And then I saw these get advertised. I think it was from a Wrestle Talk podcast episode.
Oh,
And
nice.
yeah, I used their code and I ended up getting these for, I think it was like $40 or something like that. And
Cool.
they've helped my eyes out like a lot ever since I got them.
Nice. Well, that's good. Yeah, I got these early on, and even then, even still, it's just I actually have like sunglasses. Those help a lot, and they
Hmm.
just broke like 2 weeks ago. So I got a like a repair kit. But yeah, and they're like lens corrected too, so
Hmm.
they cost like a ton. I can't go and get new ones right now. No way.
Hmm.
Uh, I got two kids I got to worry about, and Christmas is coming up.
Oh yeah, that's coming up next month. Man,
Yeah, yeah.
wow.
But yeah, these do help. These do help a lot, I think.
Yes. Well, it seems like we've covered over every single topic for the entire interview. I know that it actually went a lot longer than I thought it would, but this
Mhm.
was a pretty wild trip down memory lane because I know we haven't talked in some time, and I usually see you on social media still there in your own little world, but it's good to
Yep,
be able to get you on for this, and hell, if it comes down to it, I'd like to be able to get you on again sometime.
sounds good. Yeah.
All right, so before we finish the recording, is there anything you want to say to the people, or if there's like anything going on in your life, feel free to drop it in.
Sure. Do good in school. It's very important. Learn how you learn. I think that's important. I don't know why this randomly popped in my brain, but I spent my whole school career up until like my senior year in college figuring out how I learned. And one of the things I did was one of the teachers when I was young, oh, this terrible teacher. She's not terrible, but like she gave bad advice. She said, copy everything you ever see a teacher write ever. I'm a visual guy.
Hmm.
I don't like learn well when I have to like copy stuff down. So I got into this bad habit of copying everything, and I did that my whole career, my whole school career up until my senior year in college. And then I realized, oh my gosh, I'm getting phenomenally more information and retaining it if I just sit and listen to the instruction or the lecture. Maybe copy one thing down, but even one thing down will distract me because I can kind of like see where the person is coming from, what they're explaining, and then I can go read the book. Uh, I highly recommend figuring out how you learn, and what suits you the best. I also we didn't get to it, but
Hmm.
I dormed with my cousin my junior and senior year, and like teachers would always be like, "Don't dorm with anyone you know. Always dorm with someone new because you don't want to like have a bad experience." Like I had a blast dorming with my cousin. It was like the greatest thing ever. And so I think like teachers used to say, "Don't dorm with a friend." I was like, well, I don't know what kind of friends they had, but they must not have really good friends because I could dorm with any one of my high school friends have basically been my friend group for like 20 years now. No
Oh,
joke.
nice.
Going on 20 next year. Yeah.
Excellent. And also, to borrow this little nugget of information from like the previous recording, eat your Wheaties. I
Oh
think that
yeah.
was like the big punchline at the end of that one.
Definitely. Eat those Wheaties. Stay strong. Stay fit. Eat healthy. Yeah.
All right. Well, that is the interview. Purple Eyes WTF, thank you for coming on, man. It was a pleasure to be able to reminisce about the olden days and whatever is going on in your life. But thank you once
Hell
again,
yeah.
man.
Thank you. Thank you.